Today, we're diving into the science of two super popular compounds, L-theanine and caffeine. We're going to try to answer a question a lot of us have probably asked. Can they actually help you focus, especially when you're just running on fumes?
You know the feeling, right? We've all been there. You are just completely exhausted. Maybe you pulled an all-nighter. But hey, you've still got to show up, you've still got to perform, you need to be sharp. So, what do?
And look, this isn't just about cramming for a test. In some situations, like when you're driving, a single moment of lost focus can be catastrophic. It's in those moments that attention isn't just important, it is absolutely everything.
And that's exactly the problem that a recent scientific study decided to tackle. We know that being drowsy wrecks our attention span, so scientists are on the hunt for real, effective ways to fight that, especially when the stakes are high.
So what could a potential solution be? Well, the researchers turned their attention to two things that, let's be honest, many of us already have in our kitchens and consume pretty much every single day.
Let's meet our two key players. On one side, you've got L-theanine. It's an amino acid you find almost entirely in tea leaves. And on the other side, well, you know this one. It's caffeine, the most popular stimulant on the planet. We know they both have an effect on us, but the real question is, what happens when they team up?
And that right there is the heart of it. This isn't just about feeling a little less sleepy. The big question is, can this specific combination genuinely make a tired brain better at paying attention?
Okay, so to get a real solid answer to a question like that, you can't just ask people how they feel. You need some serious science. You need a rock-solid experiment that can measure real changes. So let's break down how they did it.
First, they got 37 healthy young adults, and yeah, they had them pull an all-nighter. Then they ran what's called a double-blind, placebo-controlled crossover trial. Now that is a mouthful, I know, but it just means the experiment was as fair as it gets. Nobody, not the participants, not even the researchers, knew who was getting the real deal, the L-theanine and caffeine, and who was getting a fake pill. And to top it off, everyone got to try both on different days.
So imagine you're one of the participants. Here's what your day looks like. You show up at the lab, and you do a quick 15-minute test to see where your attention is at, your baseline. Then you take a capsule. After that, you just chill for about 15 minutes to let it do its thing. And finally, you take that exact same attention test all over again.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. The test itself. They showed people a bunch of traffic scenes, one after another, really fast. Most of them were totally normal, safe driving scenes. But then, bam, an accident scene would pop up. Their job was simple. See the danger? Hit the button. See a safe scene? Do nothing. It's a classic test for what we call selective attention.
Okay, so the stage is set. We've got tired people, a really demanding test, and two different pills. So, what happened? Let's dive into the results, because this is where it gets good.
First up, let's talk accuracy. Before they took anything, both groups were spotting the accident scenes correctly about 88 to 89% of the time. Now, after taking the placebo, their score stayed exactly the same. But check this out. The group that got the L-theanine and caffeine, their accuracy actually went up to 90%. That's a real, measurable improvement.
Okay, so accuracy is one thing, but what about speed? How fast were they? Well, the placebo group got a tiny bit faster, which makes sense. They'd practiced the test once. But the group with the real combo? Whoa. They weren't just a little faster, they were over 52 milliseconds faster. That is a huge leap.
So let's put that in perspective. When you factor out that little practice effect, the combo still made people over 38 milliseconds quicker. Now that might sound tiny, right? But think about this. If you're in a car going 60 miles an hour, 38 milliseconds is enough time to travel about 3.5 feet. That's easily the difference between a near miss and a collision.
But here's the really cool part. The researchers didn't just stop there. Fast reactions are great, but they wanted to peek under the hood to see what was actually happening inside the brain. So they hooked the participants up to an EEG to watch their brain activity in real time.
And they were hunting for something very specific, a brain signal called the P3B wave. Now, the easiest way to think about this wave is as your brain's aha moment. It's that little electrical spike that happens when your brain recognizes something important that it was looking for. The size and the speed of that spike tells us a ton about how much brain power you're using.
And this is what they saw. Take a look at this graph. See that solid line? That's our L-theanine and caffeine group. And the dotted line is the placebo. Just look at the difference. The aha moment for the combo group is not only bigger and stronger, it happens noticeably earlier.
So what does this actually mean in plain English? Well, it boils down to two huge things.
First, their brains were physically processing the images about 30 milliseconds faster. And second, that bigger peak means their brains were literally throwing more resources, more raw brain power at the problem to make sure they got it right.
All right, so we've looked at how people performed, and we've even looked inside their brains while they did it. So what does this all mean when you put it together? What's the big takeaway here?
I think the researchers themselves summed it up perfectly. They said that this combination doesn't just make you feel awake, it actually improves both the accuracy and the speed of your attention, especially when you're tired and facing a tough situation.
And the best part is, we don't just know that it works. We now have a pretty good idea of how it works. It's helping the brain dedicate more power to the task and process critical information faster, right down at the neural level.
Which kind of brings us full circle, doesn't it? The main place you find both of these compounds together in nature is tea. So it really makes you wonder, for all those times we need to be sharp even when we're exhausted, could something as simple as a cup of tea really be one of the keys to better focus?